We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Your Health is Your Choice right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest is Sarah Chave, all the way from Portugal. We're going to be talking about your health today. We're going to be talking about creating a new earth. We're going to be talking about her new position as International Ambassador in Portugal for the People's Health Alliance. There's a lot to be talked about here today, but it is about your health and how we can be responsible for our own health. She says it's time to birth a new future. The transformation of external world starts with each of us as individuals. Let us work together to make this change. Let it be the change that we want to see in the world. We have the choice to step away from our old mold of striving and surviving and open ourselves up to new possibilities where we can birth a future that is heart-led and reflection in our souls and acquired wisdom and deep connection with Mother Earth. We can create together, we can dream into being, and what does that new earth that we wish to build look like? Sarah was in her 20s when her life took a dramatic turn. She dramatically lost her fiancé and baby. She felt such a deep, profound grief that she began withdrawing from life. Coping mechanisms had severed her until the point in her life failed completely, and for a while she was completely lost. She ultimately picked herself up and pointed herself in the direction of learning new things that would potentially help. Her journey, painful as it was, led her to where she is today. She is an energy worker and a healer that over the past few years has felt called to the part of birthing of the new earth. And to that end, she and her family are currently in the process of going off the grid, exploring new and also very old ways of being and cultivating the right relationship with nature, the environment, and with the spirit. On a very practical level, she is learning how to set herself up sustainably on her own land, and on a deeper level, she is supporting others who are doing the same and cultivating a community where everybody is connected, growing, nourishing one another. She's been honored with the role of the Wellness Ambassador, Wellness Summit in 2022, and was excited to continue work in the community across the globe to create the New Earth. She's the host of New Earth podcast and has been instrumental in development of People's Health Alliance in Portugal. So, very sorry to hear about your loss, but loss is something that most certainly is a massive redirection, but it also kind of points out to what life is all about, really, isn't it? It is through loss that we kind of see a different value in life and what life is really about and how to live it. What was that hook for you that's finally turned your corner where you could see, well, this life is worth living?
Yeah, well, it was a journey for me. Thank you so much for having me on the show,
My pleasure.
Sarah. First of all, really, really wonderful to be chatting with you today. Yeah, well, I've always wanted to be an artist. I set out wanting to be an artist, and that was the kind of experience that turned my life around and made me really reevaluate and relook. And someone very wise said to me, I had a few wise things said to me actually when I was going through my grieving process. One was be very gentle on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's really stuck with me. And whenever I feel, I start to feel, okay, I'm up against it a bit, I always remember those words and be gentle with myself. And another thing someone said to me was to get comfortable in that uncomfortable place. And for me, that was something that stayed with me, because if we can manage to get comfortable in that uncomfortable place, then that becomes comfortable. So what we're doing is we're extending our comfort zones. And I think that's the gift of this kind of experience, is because, to have that in my 20s, at an early age, that ability to look outside of my comfort zone, I think is incredibly valuable. So to answer your question, the journey for me was very much about looking for things that would help me, when I was in my deep process. And for me, energy medicine, was the thing that really supported me. I tried various things, but energy medicine is the thing. And I trained in something called body talk. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with. And then moved into something called Acunet, which is a Chinese medicine-based therapy, which I became an instructor in, and that's what I work predominantly in now.
So body talk, is that like galactic talk where you are channeling different speak when the head doesn't understand what it is, but the body does?
No, in a way, Body Talk and Act Connect, what I work with now, they have a similar base and understanding, because the founder of Act Connect, who is actually kind of one of the senior instructors in Body Talk, and it's working very much with sort of the biofeedback, the muscle checking.
Mm-hmm.
So you establish a communication with the body, establish a yes and no response. And this is ultimately a way of checking in with our intuition, so, and then from there, we use a health map, and it enables us to really navigate around the body mind, so we can go to specific areas. So we could go, perhaps for a memory, we could go to, down to a cellular level, or we could be working out with the planets, and, it's very, very holistic.
People misunderstand what energy is. People talk about it, but they still think it's something you just plug into a wall, or the Tesla. But we don't realize that we are energy, and everything around us is energy, and it all has a signature. And it's just a question of kind of tapping into that frequency. And once we learn how to do that, we realize that we can actually recharge ourselves, pretty well at any time. But it also is that healing modality. And that chi, that energy must constantly be in flow in our body and around us, because if it blocks us, that's where we start having problems.
Absolutely. And the acupuncture that I work with, it's got its basis in Chinese medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working with the meridians, we're working with the energy flow, we're working with whether, an organ's deficient, that sort of thing. You're really trying to balance the energy within the organs. But how we do that is that we're not just looking at the energy flow, because things like beliefs can block the energy flow, consciousness. So, for example, the gallbladder is, it can tend to be quite timid, but it's all about moving forward on our path. So the liver will see our path, and the gallbladder will actually then help us make steps in our path.
Ah.
But when it goes out of balance, it can tend to be quite timid. So what's really interesting is that the gallbladder, the consciousness of the gallbladder is actually to be very courageous, because when we release bile, we can't just release a little bit, we need to release all of it in one go. So when it goes into timidity and frightened of taking steps out of balance, so we can work with the consciousness of that to get the energy flowing as it should be, as the gallbladder is meant to function.
I had this wonderful woman on as a host for 5 years. She used to call herself Snake Oil Woman because, she was approaching her 80. She actually quit, I think, when she was 82. So back in the 60s, anything that was considered alternative medicine was kind of Snake Oil Woman, right? So, but she always used to say that the liver, the colon, and the kidneys were the most important organs, because if they were out of function, so would the rest of the organs.
Yeah, I mean, we really look at sort of balancing all the organs, to be honest. And a lot of it is the communication between the organs, and getting everything to work as a team. Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's not a problem actually with the one thing; it's that it's not communicating and working with the other areas. So a lot of it is, bringing the body back into sort of working as a team, seeing the organs as a family,
Yeah.
really.
Mm.
So, yeah.
But that also means mind, heart, body, soul. It's it's not just the organs and, oh, the brain works differently. I mean, a lot of people mind over matter, but the mind is matter. It's everything in your whole body. It's the wholeness of us. And if we're not addressing the holistic wholeness of ourselves, then we are disconnected. And that disconnection is where the problems start.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that really attracted me to Acunet actually was that the founder had trained extensively in Chinese medicine and actually uncovered a lot of the spiritual roots of Chinese
Hmm.
medicine has got lost. He's
Yeah.
kind of restored those. And one of the main principles, which is actually a Taoist principle, is that the root of all disease is separation from the Tao. So the Tao is also like the divine, all that
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Some people might not know what the Tao is. So it's that idea of, whatever name, consciousness.
Mm,
So it's really that when we feel alienated, when we separate ourselves off,
mm,
that is the root of all disease. So actually the acunet, the acu is acupuncture, and
yeah.
the second part is the second part of connect. So that's
Mm,
very much what we're working with is reconnecting with our authentic self, but also reconnecting it more authentically with others, with nature, with divine, and all that is.
I 101 million% agree that, I think most of the depression that comes about today is that people are not connecting to their divinity, whichever they wish to call it. Um, I think a lot of the disruption that is happening is because a conscious rising is happening. More and more people are waking up to that consciousness. With it, they're realizing it's painful out there. We've created a world of a great deal of suffering. And as that conscious rises, you actually feel that suffering. That isn't to punish you, that is to invite you to be a part of the healing, to realize what we're
Absolutely.
doing to the world. And those that are still very much in the pain and won't allow their consciousness to rise are kind of trying to hold on to the pain because they're familiar with it and they're scared of that conscious rising. Is new birth, new earth. It is about being willing. You've been pregnant, you know what it's like. It's not comfortable. Morning sickness, baby pain in the back, giving birth, and all of that. But I look at it as a rebirth of ourselves, and we've got to be willing to go through the uncomfortable for that new birth to be there. And that's part of that conscious rising.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that was why I wanted to mention, in terms of my own grieving process in the beginning, the person saying to me getting comfortable in that uncomfortable place.
Hmm.
Because one of the things that I'm very much supporting people with is helping people to navigate the changes that we're going through as a collective at the
Mm.
moment. And I'm sure a lot of it comes back to that, that being able to sit with ourselves in an
Yes.
honest way, even though it's not comfortable at times. That's what we've all been asked to do in a way.
Hmm.
Certainly that's what we were asked to do in lockdown, where some people were locked in by themselves. They had no one to hold them.
Mm.
All the senses, all the distractions of the world that we usually have
Hmm.
were gone. So I think for a lot of people, it did. I mean, for all of us, we were all kind of forced really to look inwards. Then that
Yes.
that really becomes a gift that we can
Hmm.
actually then start actually looking with ourselves and moving away from this superficial world that we've all been living in really for so long now.
That we created. And, it was created out of, greed or power, opulence, and we're actually a species that doesn't need a lot, but give us a little and we want a lot. And so we've got to learn to be satisfied with the little and to understand that life is the simple things. Part of my depressional healing is music is one, but nature. Listen to the trees. They are talking to you. Your head may not get what it is, but your psyche does. The water is a wonderful conduit, or the sound of the ocean up against the shores. Listening to the birds sing, watching a cat chasing a bird, a dog chasing a stick, a little kid chasing after something. All of these things are wonderful, simple joys that will lift up our spirit, our consciousness, and our whole meaning of life. But we've become kind of numb to that feeling, well, no, I've got to have this, I've got to have that to be happy. And we're realizing as a species that is not where happiness lies.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we've held this vision of moving off grid and, exploring another way of being for quite some time. And then sort of in late 2020, we sold our house in England and moved to Portugal. And I knew that we'd slowed down a lot. Our life pace had changed a lot. When we went to revisit a place that we went, it was kind of our bolt hole when we were in England. And we always used to go there for a bit of peace and quiet. And we were looking at each other going, it's so busy here.
Yeah.
There were shops and, we live very rurally, to be honest, I don't really tend to go shopping very much now at all. I do my weekly supermarket shop, which I've now taken down quite every fortnight because we've got this wonderful local initiative, a food larder that's been set up by the local community where we are making contact with the local buyers to source, grass-fed meat, organic produce where we can, organic vegetables. A lot of us are growing our own vegetables, but the trouble is that the whole process of moving off grid, it's so time consuming.
Yes.
My husband actually, his background is actually in gardening. He was doing that full time in England, and he's complaining he hasn't been able to get in the garden much yet. He's so busy with kind of digging boreholes, chicken houses, all the different other things that we've been doing to try and set ourselves up. It's definitely a journey, but for me, one of the most important things has been the community. That sense of, we're all here for a similar reason, and there's a real sense of us working together to do things differently, which is very, very exciting. And I think, talking with, I still have a lot of clients in the UK, and talking with a lot of clients in the UK, it's a lot of people are feeling quite alone at the moment, and certainly not the feeling here at all. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have a brother and sister in the UK, and I was meant to go over in March, and they said, don't. We don't know if there'll be a train from the airport. We don't know if this is going to be shut down or that's going to be shut down. There's just such a transition going on there at the present moment. And it's like, I think everybody's angry, everybody's confused, and everybody's going about it the wrong way. Instead of coming together, they're kind of ostracizing each other. And we know that that doesn't work because we see it in North America a great deal. This show is called Your Health is Your Choice, and your health is your well-beingness. Spiritually, physically, emotionally, it is that well-beingness, and it's finding that balance in life where the chi, where the energy is constantly in flow, where it's oxygenating your body, where it is, that healthy space to be in. And for so long, we kind of, I won't say brainwashed, but conditioned to give our health over to someone, a doctor, medical people.
absolutely.
And, now we're understanding they're limited. Where I am here in BC in Canada, there's 2 million people without a doctor. I'm one of them. And so people are having to look at different ways of doing it. And those modalities of holistic is really kind of blossoming in many ways because people will realize, well, if I don't have a doctor, I've got to go and do something else for my health. And
yeah. I mean, and this is how the People's Health Alliance formed, actually. It formed last year, and I think it was a group of people who got together, really disillusioned with what was going on in the UK, where it's been horrendous. I think there can be 3 months just to see just to see a doctor and things like this. It's basically falling apart, the NHS. And a group of people got together and thought, rather than sitting about waiting to be rescued, let's create something.
yes.
And one of the principles of the People's Health Alliance is self-responsibility. So it's this idea of, people coming together. And when I say people, it's not just alternative practitioners, it's allopathic practitioners as well.
Yeah.
So without meaning to sound too grand, basically it's creating a new healthcare system. And it's created by the people, for the people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really encouraging people to step up, to get involved um, at the local level. Obviously I'm working more at the level of, Portugal, because we're just trying to get off the ground. I'm working on that level. But what it really boils down to is finding a local hub in your area and getting involved to see what, see what they're doing, or if nothing's been done, to kind of setting up your own
Yeah.
hub, because it's being rolled out not only in the UK but across the globe. So it's a very, very exciting time, and there's a real sense of people working together in a very empowered way to create something completely new with a very different approach. So, for example, rather than working with mental health, they're working with mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things. So, because mental health has so many stigmas attached, it's like, you know what, if you're going to join in with this, it's about taking full responsibility for your own well-being, and then empowering and resourcing each other to do that. So I like to liken it to more of the system that they have in the Orient, where, because Chinese medicine has, it's in the hospitals,
Yes.
and a lot of the alternative therapies, it's a much more integrated approach. And what's really beautiful about, what they have in the Orient is that basically everybody knows a few acupuncture points. They perhaps know they sell herbs in the local shop, because people know how to use those herbs. So there's the knowledge in the community. If that level of healing fails, then you'll perhaps go to the next
Yeah.
level. And then you go to the doctors, so it's not the first port of call. Whereas we've been, like you said, very much conditioned to go to the doctor as the first port of call. And I think it's really, there's a possibility now to really kind of rethink that and do things in another way.
Yeah, I had a doctor at one time because my ex-husband is Chinese, and she would say to me, "Okay, you're diagnosed with this. Now go and ask your husband with the Chinese doctors what they can do for you before I give you a prescription." So she was very much, into both sides of the coin, which was wonderful. And then if there wasn't an answer, then she would prescribe something for me, right? So,
Well, that's
uh,
the thing. And I mean, that's the thing. And that's why I like the integrated approach, because, there are times when we need an operation. There's
yeah,
times when we need that, it's absolutely essential. But, when a doctor gives the diagnosis, perhaps a terminal diagnosis, what they're actually saying is, I don't have the skills to
yes,
be able to help you. And actually, there may be other people that can. So if it's more integrated,
yeah,
there's a sort of passing between and a talking between. Okay, I can't help, but who can? So it opens up, if you have that kind of networking and sense of help within the community and supporting each other, then it makes it much more of a net in a way for the patient.
yes, yeah. If doctors need to stop looking at it as a competition or comparison, but look at it as that community. And very often, we're seeing a enormous rise in depression right now, and I think a great deal of it is to do with the consciousness. It's also to do with all the negativity out there that's just shattering people's consciousness because they know what's going on is wrong, and they may be feeling at the moment powerless as to do anything about it. And I'm always saying is empower yourself, heal yourself, raise your own vibration, because the more you step into love, kindness, compassion, caring, the more you have the ability to be that light and that healing for someone else on that journey. The more you have clarity, the more you'll be able to see the answers. The healthier you will be, or even if you are dealing with health issues, the stronger you will be in those issues rather than those
Yeah,
issues taking over. So I think what the mind has to do is give permission for all of the other beautiful intellects, our soul, heart, and spirit's intellect, body intellect, to have a voice. Whereas we've been conditioned for so long that the mind is everything, and we've been ignoring the rest of ourselves.
yeah, and I think, the finding of our inner voice, that, is
Mm,
really important as well, and that's part of the empowerment process, because I think we have got into we've perhaps lived most of our life being kind of dictated to,
Hmm.
and it is time to take authorship for our own life and
Yes.
stand up with others. And that doesn't need to be in a kind of activist kind of a way.
No.
It can simply be in this kind of a way, like the people have lives. Okay, well, let's start growing our own vegetables, and
Yes.
there's
Be
the
your own
food and
solution.
farming alliance as well.
Hmm.
Find the
Hmm.
solutions and
Yeah.
working together to find solutions, which is actually a really beautiful journey and process, of working with other people as well.
Yeah. Um, you know, activism is speaking out against anything, but for me, actionism is actually doing something about it. So I'm inviting people to get into actionism. You know what the problem is, and you know that there needs to be a solution, not just sit back and wait. You're pointing a finger, government, corporation, three are pointing back at you saying, well, what are you doing about it? You can be a
Yeah,
part of
and
the
I think I
solution.
think I think in history, that when you go up against, it actually can give the thing more energy. It's much better to focus on what you want to create. That's actually much more powerful, than kind of fighting
Yeah.
against that which is not working for
Uh,
us.
And some
So
people, don't know, they're in that awakening of that consciousness. And it is it may be a completely kind of 180 from their lifestyle. And it's they're quintessentially kind of that newborn navigating life. And this is where you listen to the people that have gone before. And I say, if you listen and you learn and then apply, it's going to be that knowledge and the skills that you need in your backpack on your own journey of life. So I think we're very much in in that awakening phase of, this is my discontent. I'm waking up to that discontent that if things need to change. I want to change. Now I'm asking how. Whom do I listen to? That can be that
yeah,
inspiration, that is that invitation to show me how. And we don't want people to take a leap. The first leap is the first step. We want you to be sure-footed on this because we don't want you to fall. But if you've listened to the people that have already laid the path for you or have been there and have got the skills, the wisdom, the knowledge along the way, that is where we're saying you're not alone. There are many people like yourself who've paved the way for people to make that journey much easier for them.
yeah, and I personally feel the very, very first step is to go inward and to
Mm,
look at ourselves and to, like we were talking about earlier, to really start to trust in ourselves, because that's the first step in coming into sovereignty. We can't really do the work out there
no,
until we've come back and we've actually worked on ourselves, know that our own intuition, listening to our own guidance, because someone might be very well guided, but that might not be the right guidance for someone else,
exactly. Yes.
so until we actually find that inner guidance and that inner voice of knowing and that inner voice that says, I can, I can step up, I can do this, then we're almost like just jumping on the next bandwagon,
Yeah.
we haven't got that self-responsibility yet.
Right. I call it kind of the love compass. It's your divinity compass. It's the core of who you are. It's your generator. It's that compass that will guide you. And if you listen to the heart and you really come from the heart and the divine generator, whichever you wish to look at, whatever it is, will guide you because no, that doesn't feel right. That does feel right. I know I've got to do this, but I don't know why, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to allow and see where it takes me because you're governed by that love compass. And that love compass is where you cannot knowingly do any harm to yourself or to anyone else. Or to harm someone else is to harm yourself. And it is only to wish well for people. It is only to do good for yourself and others. And if people could go in and ignite the heart, soul, and spirit into love, self-love, love of life, and wanting to spread that love, I think that is one of the wonderful guidance systems that you can have.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much more energy we have when we're
Mm.
coming from that place as
Yeah.
well, and I talk about this time of being very much about finding our unique contribution, because
Hmm.
part of the system that with the old system, what we've spoken about not working is that we've all gone to these day jobs 9 till 5 just to earn money, and actually that's going to become less and less important.
Yes.
It's much more about you know, our life path, and
Yeah.
are we fulfilling that? Um, so I think that's very much, part of that journey, and connecting. And we can't find our unique contribution unless we connect in with our heart.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
we'll find it.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And that heart consciousness is again, where you know what's wrong. And your question is how can I put it right, or how can I be a part of the healing? And I think if everybody stepped into that, we would automatically vibrationally become part of that healing. And the pain that we feel in that new consciousness would start diminishing because we've rised up, but we'd also be sending out vibrationally that wonderful loving energy to other people that are needing that healing. So, that is good vibrations certainly help things grow.
yeah, and at the moment, we're going through. It's not just us that are awakening and shifting our vibration. Mother Earth is doing that as well,
Hmm.
and we are moving through the photon belt. So it means that the energy that's pouring to the Earth is just absolutely pouring in. So there is the potential for all of us to be raising our vibration. But what
Yes.
it can tend to do is, as we're raising, it brings all the debris to the surface.
Yeah.
It brings all the junk. So almost the first step for people, it's impossible just to come into the love vibration without
Yes.
clearing
The
the
work.
junk,
We've got to go
clearing
through
the
the
debris.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So whatever, it's like really honouring, what's coming up, because
Hmm.
it is tough. It is tough. We're going through a huge transition as a
Mm.
collective, and it's about sort of working with what's coming up.
Hmm.
Doing that, we can start to clear it and heal.
And I think, whatever comes up, don't put shame or blame to it. It if something comes up that you did in your past that you've wanted to ignore, you did what you knew, in the environment that you knew it in. That you know better now, so you can let that go. What did you learn from it? Never to do it again. If there is a pain of something being done to you, and you've carried that pain with you, and it stopped you from being able to move forward, you can look at it now and go, you no longer serve me. You're holding me back. But we have to face it. We have to face whatever comes up. It's not out there to get us. It's out there to be released from us. And only we can do that by being open and honest with ourselves and who we are now. Again, that this longer needs to walk with me.
Well, it's coming into compassion, and that starts with self-compassion, because we're all human.
Hmm.
We've all done not great things, perhaps over many lifetimes,
Yes.
and that's what we're dealing with here. We're actually dealing with clearing not just this lifetime, but potentially, going
Yes.
right back, because it's such a huge transition that we're going through.
Hmm.
So
And the DNA of our ancestry and everything else as well. It's all
that's
embedded
it.
in
I mean,
there.
I'm working. It's interesting because I actually started a group back in May. I got asked by Divine to start this group, creating New Earth, and it's a really beautiful group. It's a journey of co-creation. We work together to really look at all the different areas of conditioning that we need to let go of in order to step into New Earth. So it's a beautiful journey, because it's almost like an undoing of who we are, because we've all kind of been brought up in a culture, in the collective beliefs and everything, and we're kind of re-looking at everything, and working on that together, which I think when we work on things as a collective, and when I say work, when we, it's not just me doing the healing is co-creative. It's very much sort of working together. um I think it's that much more powerful. It's got the potential to shift things on a collective level much more powerfully, because you've kind of got maybe 20 or 30 witnesses rather than just one or two.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. But why I started speaking about that is because I started this Creating New Earth group, and a few months in, I got told I needed to start an ancestral group, healing group, because we were trying to sort of move forward, and
Mm.
actually we just kept going backwards. So we started something else that's working with all the ancestry, clearing all that ancestral patternings that held us back for generations. So
Yeah. Yeah. There is another group that's very similar name, which is is about community, everybody coming together. So I thought you might be a part of that, but the wording is slightly different. But I think this is what more and more people are being invited to do, is that um, we want to go back to the village mentality where that village is only as strong as everyone's participation. And they're there to support those that are going through bad days or good days, celebrations and sorrows. But the strength of that community is because everybody is contributing. And I think in a lot of ways, we were lured into big city lights and big city this and that we'll get all our frills from there. And we realize I'm lost in the city. It's just noise and static, and I don't belong here. I feel disconnected. And we want to go back to that village where we feel seen and heard, and that our contribution really feels like it's a part of something.
Yeah, and I think very much that during this time we're finding our family of frequency or
Hmm.
finding our tribe. But for those people that are listening to this that are in the city, and thinking, well, what am I going to do? I can't connect with my, family of frequency. You can find your online family of
Yes.
frequency as well. And certainly both the ancestral group that I do and the Creating New Earth are both online groups. We've got people from all over. So I think that's very powerful to when we work together actually from different locations, because my feeling is that we're anchoring energy
Mm.
in different locations. That we're bringing
Yeah.
different things from different places. So that also is extremely powerful.
I kind of draw it as an analogy that we're all discovering our gifted instrument and learning how to play it. Then we're looking for that orchestra to belong to. And that orchestra is only
Beautiful.
as strong as everyone's participation in harmony, in sync with each other. But it wouldn't be so harmonious or in sync without everybody's strength. And it also doesn't mean the orchestra is only going to play one number. There may be a soloist this time and a soloist next time, and it's different type of music. But because we're in sync with each other, we can change the music up. But it comes down to what is my instrument and how can I bring that instrument to the orchestra where I can play in harmony with others. And it's, a lot of this thing about being a part of the one, the collective. People thought that they'd just kind of join it and they'd be melding like the Borg from Star Trek, and they get, resistance is futile, which it is. To resist your heart and soul is futile because it will always win out. But it isn't about abstaining from yourself. It's bringing about the beautiful essence of who you are to that collective.
Yeah, well, we're moving into the age of Aquarius,
Hmm.
and what's very Aquarius is very contrary in a way, because it's about the individual and the
Mm.
collective. So
Yes.
it's about finding your unique contribution and bringing that to the collective. So
Yeah.
in a way, it's much more individual than, say, globalization and all
Yes.
the things that we've been living in, which really are the loss of the individual. That's like, brands and corporations and
Hmm.
everything becomes standardized. This has much more room for the individual and a much more honoring of the individual.
Yeah.
And certainly my experience with the People's Health Alliance, it's all done through heart. Then
Yes.
it's all community kind of work, and it's just beautiful, to
Hmm.
see everyone shining their different gifts
Yeah,
of what they're contributing. It's
definitely.
really gorgeous process.
I do a lot of business shows because I have a business genre. And the beauty of what I'm seeing in the business is that they are working with people and trying to change the corporate culture to people, planet for profit, not profit at the expense of people and planet. And that in any business, whether you're a solopreneur or a big corporation, is your heart in it? Are you being authentic? Because if people don't buy you, why should they buy from you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a delight to see it because it's happening more and more. And when we, through the ages, we've talked about grassroots. grassroots organizations that get in there and they start rooting and then they're building up. And I think this is what's happening right now. We've got a lot of lovely little grassroots growth going everywhere. And we might do things slightly differently because that goes according to our personality traits or how we, perceive things. But ultimately, we're all being part of that collective orchestra because we're all doing it to raise the vibration, raise the frequency, raise the energy, raise the love. It's just that each one of it's like a big, huge feast. You're not going to eat everything at the smoker's board, right? You're going to have your preferences, but that doesn't mean the other foods don't count. It's somebody else's preference, but it's all a wonderful feast that can feed us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is, how we nurture and nourish each other.
Hmm.
It's just so beautiful. So yeah, I mean it's a journey, it's a journey for people, I think, because we've been brought up with all this conditioning,
Yes.
that it is a journey. I mean, for a lot of us that have been doing work for many years, doing the inner work,
Hmm.
it's perhaps not such a big jump, but for people that perhaps haven't done this, I can understand,
It can be
it needs to
daunting.
be approached gently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can be. And this is where, as I said, the listening, the learning to learn to apply. Um, the reason I do what I do and I've done for the Lily the last 11 years is because inspiration does beget invitation. And when you hear what somebody else has been through, but they were willing to go through the process of their own recovery, igniting their own heart and soul, and then stepping into the ownership of their well-beingness, we learn from them. You came from what? You went through that process. You're where now? Well, there's hope for me. Or if I apply this, maybe, it's the beginning of their journey, or it's an encouragement of their journey, or it's a support of their journey. And that's what we need to do for one another. It's not about where
absolutely.
someone is at. It's encourage them to keep going on their process of growth.
Absolutely, and I think that's the difference again of what we're moving into in New Earth. I think in the old world that we've lived in, you'd have the people at the top,
Yeah.
and only those people would have a voice.
Yes.
It's much more hierarchical structure. But now, with this idea of unique contribution, it's much more circular. It's much more
Mm,
indigenous.Here you have a circle, and every single voice in that circle is as important as the other and as valued as the other. And certainly a lot of the work that I'm doing at this time is encouraging people to really open up their voice,
mm,
because the journey that I went through my losses, I lost my voice, and
mm.
it's about, coming back and actually, working through that, because we've all got that story,
Yes.
we've all got that contribution through our voice and our gift. So
And very
yeah,
much, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how it happens for us. What are we meant to learn from this? Or how are we meant to grow from this? Or how do we get through that process of that healing or that growing or that redirection? Um, we're all at that space. And the reason why we're seeing so much angst and anger are the people who don't want the change. They're not willing to take that journey. 5 years ago, the universe gave me a saying: I'm going to shake you up, to wake you up, for you to step up, to change it up, and grow up. Grow up vibration, but grow up as a human race. Stop being so petty and unkind to one another. So many people heard the calling, and we're seeing that stepping up and that changing up, that process of that. But you've got the other people that are being shaken up and they don't want to step up. There's a wonderful book, Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson, MD. It's two mice and two men around abundance of cheese, and one day the cheese is gone. And it's the four key reactions. Sniffy and scurry, the mice, sniff and scurry out more cheese. Hem and ha, well, ha eventually goes, I'm starving. I've got to go and look for more cheese. But hem is, give me back my cheese. Who do I sue? Who do I have to kill? I'm not going
I,
anywhere. And so that is very much the mentality that we're seeing globally right now, those of you owe me, give me. And others going, if I really want to sustain and own my own well-beingness, my own health, my own psyche, I've got to be willing to go sniff out and scurry around for what is going to be something that will fulfill me.
absolutely, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
It's a great book
Yeah,
for
and
people
one
going
of
through
the things
change.
that I think, this idea of sniffing out,
Mm,
people, I've been getting a lot of queries from people, that they hear that I'm doing what I'm doing, with the sustainable work, and the consciousness shift stuff, and they start asking me about, have you got time to talk about Portugal,
Mm.
and is Portugal the place to be to weather this storm that we're in, is this the place, and everything. And what I usually answer is, I don't think there is a right place.
Mm.
The right place is where each of you are guided to.
Yeah.
That is the right place. It's about that. Where am I meant to be at this time as
Yes.
well? So it's that sense of, you said about the sniffing out.
Yeah.
It's about that following that trail.
Hmm.
To where we're meant to be on so many different levels.
The greatest creators are those that were willing to go through the process, the discovery. This network is called self-discovery. You were born and you were this beautiful blank slate. And through if we just I have almost a 2-year-old grandson and another one on the way, watching him and his own self discovery. When I'm just sitting there watching and he's playing and you can see his eyebrows going up, little conversations going on in his head. And it's just so wonderful to see that as he's exploring this and exploring that. We've forgotten how to explore. We've
We
forgotten
have.
how to, the wonderment and the adventure and the inquisitiveness and the curiosity of life. We've become very, very complacent, and that complacency is what's killing us.
Well, it's interesting, because as soon as we have a name for something, as soon as we label it, as soon as we know what it is, we don't do that discovery thing. We don't go around licking pencils or the things that little toddlers do. I remember my boy. I gave him an egg once, and the phone rang, and I looked around, and it was a boiled egg. He wasn't just eating the inside; he was eating all the shell and thoroughly enjoying it. It was just really interesting time. So,
Yes.
but yeah, I think the thing is that our world has changed so much over the
Hmm.
last 3 years. The uncertainty that people
Hmm.
are feeling is actually the opportunity, because
Yes.
it's the time to reassess, the time to reevaluate, not take for granted, oh, I know this is how it's always been, this is how I've always done.
Yeah.
It's more like, I've always done it this way, but does that actually work?
Mm.
So it's the time, okay, well, let's have a look at this. This shaped me up, the potential to do things differently, to look at ourselves differently, um, and form new relationships and ways of being.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
um,
people ask, on Facebook in the beginning of the year, what's your word for the year? And for mine was reconstruction. I'm going to be moving this year. I'm going to be stepping out more into the books that I'm going to be producing, collaborative books. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. And it's all about building my tribe that wants to do it with me. And we're doing it because it needs to be done, not driven by the money, driven by the purpose of it. And then
absolutely,
the
yeah,
money will come, but it's the purpose of it. And it's like it's that reconstruction of how we do things and what's more productive. Because, look at last year, the year before, there's been so much pivoting happening in so many directions, and there's still so much turmoil because people's are like balls up in the air. They don't know where to land. And it's like, um, look at your life. And I think one of the greatest gifts that, COVID did give us, except for the people that did suffer from it, but, my daughter's had it 3 times. So it was the gift of time to reflect and go in and really look at your life. And numerous amount of people I've interviewed saying, what was I doing? I was being a slave to my job, or a slave to this, or a slave to society. And being shut down was the greatest thing for me because I completely reconstructed my life to give
yeah.
myself more time to live and not be a
We
slave to
actually had the
something.
most wonderful time in the first lockdown. So we were living in England near a safari park called Longleat, and of course there were no cars on the road, and we
Mm.
actually got on our bikes and cycled to this safari park, and we saw baby giraffes and all
Uh,
sorts. And it was just us,
yes.
across this fence, the road to get at the back of the park, it goes very close to the giraffe, and other animals. And time you're on safari or something.
Yes,
So we had
yes.
a joke in our family actually because my boy, not so much during lockdown, but when he was younger, we used to go to the safari park so often. He would think that giraffes and elephants were more common than sheep. Just always there.
It
So,
depends what country you're in,
well,
right?
that's true. Yeah, but maybe not in England.
No,
But
not in England, not in England.
yeah,
That as I said, resistance is futile because, change is happening. And if the shift is happening, the consciousness is happening, and it's like you will get left behind if you don't kind of get with the vibe. And it is that beautiful wake up for everybody. Yeah, it can be initially painful. Yes, it can be, that huge navigation into something new. But I think the more we surrender and allow ourselves to go through that. And instead of looking at it, like fearfully, I don't know what, so many people have lived their life through a manual. And if they haven't got the manual in front of them, they don't know. "Oh, I'm too scared to take that step. What if, what if, what if?" And I go, change the what ifs. What if you discover this? What if you discover that? Right? Okay, now you may hit a few potholes. But all you do is learn to get back up better each time. But what if in hitting that pothole, you discover something at eye level that you would have passed walking by? It is be inquisitive. The answers to life are all around us, but we're not paying attention because we're too busy in a hurry to get to the destination instead of enjoying our journey.
yeah. I mean, it's a process, isn't it? I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, I think going back to the fear you mentioned, somewhere talking about fear.
Mhm.
I think it's that we have been sort of like the last few years. There's been a lot of fear for
Mm.
people, because of the pandemic and what the news we've been fed and everything. And the trouble is that fear shuts down the immune system.
Yeah.
If we're in fear, um, the immune system's not going to function because the immune system and our emotions are so interlinked, that if we go into fight or flight, the energy goes away from the immune function. So it's just not going to have the energy to fight off viruses and everything. So, it's very difficult, I think,
Yes.
when we're being fed so much on the outside to do that. And certainly I went through my own process with fear. I think it activated in me initially,
Mm.
some old past life stuff that I had to work through initially. But more and more, it's like, that fear when it's utilized. I mean, fear is meant to keep us safe,
Yes.
but
It's
but
understanding what
actually
kind of fear, though, right?
that's
You
the
know?
thing. It doesn't, you know, the idea of fear is meant to keep us safe. But if we're just gonna, like, we're trying to cross the road and we're just gonna stand by the side of the road,
Hmm.
afraid to cross the road when there's no cars, there's nothing, then that's not healthy fear.
No.
So it's like, how can we move through the fear? Have the courage to move through the fear that a lot of us have been feeling because we're in a real shake-up time,
Hmm.
in order to empower ourselves, to do something positive. Because when we get into a kind of fear cycle, it is much more damaging than COVID or any other thing
It's
that we might.
crippling. It
Yeah,
literally crunches you up. There's no energy running through
yeah,
your body because everything tightens up inside of you. There's the common sense fear. Don't walk in front of a bus. Pay attention, look both ways. Is it safe to cross? Don't go down the dark alley. Listen to your instincts when out there, your danger instincts, right? Be in tuned with them, then you'll know when it's something to be cautious about, be aware of. But when we step into fear, in which what is fear? The unknown. It's something we don't know, and it's something we project forward as being something against us because we don't know. That's when we cripple ourselves. And in that crippling, no energy can run through. That means no clarity can run through. Right? So we have to
I
be
think
willing
you've
to open
nailed
up.
it. Yeah, I think you've nailed it there with the fear of the unknown, because I think that's what's been underneath it all. And I think
Mm.
even more than that, fear of the unknown is actually kind of fear of death,
Yes.
and ultimately, I think, that is what we've been facing as a collective, being in a pandemic and everything like that. We've had to face those kind of fears. We've had to look at, what, how do I position myself in this? How do I stand in all this, and empower myself? And without wanting to sort of polarize, because everyone's got different views on how to navigate that. And I think it's very important though to follow that inner guidance.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When you go in, like as I said, I've got a huge reconstruction this year, and there's a lot of things I have to do. And admittedly, I went into that, and it's the overload, and it's like, okay, just simply put everything down, pick up one thing at a time. What's the most important thing right now? Address that. Then address the next thing, then the next thing. And it's that dauntingness that we put upon ourselves that we become fearful of, and it's crippling to move forward. But we address something one thing at a time, things fall into place. So take the deep breath. And we have been conditioned to be fearful. Part of that is the establishments keeping us in control. Part of that has been religion for eons, keeping us in control. Keep us in fear, they can pull the strings. When we take ownership of our own fear, our own choices, our own wisdom, the wisdom that comes from within, then we can know what to be fearful of, or weary of, and what not to be. And that truth is something we will feel even before we understand. Now, I know
Fabulous.
you have a podcast, and I see that you've interviewed a couple of my friends, Sarah Jane and Enola. Great people being on their podcast. I see you've had them on there. And that the thing about a podcast and the conversations like this is why I say to people, listen, learn, and then apply, is that we are learning so much that we did not know. Podcasting in many, many ways has become the new library. And it's so because it's so international, and it's a beautiful place for people to be open and honest, which you can't get on the media because you've got advertisers, you've got time restraints. Here it is where people can really truly be honest and open. And the fact that it's done kind of like this, just either through audio or through video, that you can hear when someone's really being authentic or not. They can't really hide behind it. And so it's become a wonderful information arena, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving it. It's quite a new thing for me, the podcast. I've had some wonderful guests already, and it's very much the theme of the podcast is called New Earth Podcast, and it's very much, leaders that are leading the way into New Earth. And, we explore a different topic every month. So we actually twice a month. So we just had one health sovereignty. We actually had someone from the People's Health Alliance prior to that talking about our children, our future. She's actually ambassador for children, and she was talking about all the wonderful stuff that PHA has been doing to empower children as well, encouraging
Yes.
children to step up, and young people and teens especially.
Yeah.
So that was really incredible. So yeah, I'm just loving it. And having this theme of creating New Earth and New Earth podcast, I think it is really supporting people to transition this time. Will you be putting the link to my YouTube
Yes.
channel underneath? Yeah, so
Yeah.
anyone that wishes to can subscribe for free to that and have a listen into any of the podcasts.
And of course, on your website, you've got things, the Body Talk and the AcuNet, and how people can sign up for that and go through the process. You've got your classes, you've got your sessions, everything is there, and it doesn't matter where people are from, right? Obviously, you work hand in hand
Yeah,
with people physically, but there's also the virtual work.
yeah, I actually do everything online now. I took everything online because most of my clients is sort of international.
Yes.
So I work one-on-one with clients with all kinds of issues, physical, emotional, spiritual transformation. I also run groups, one of which is the self-care group that I run. Sort of the other two groups that I mentioned already, Creating New Earth and the Ancestral Group, once a month. But the self-care class I run every few months, and you learn a wonderful routine that you can use on yourself daily to empower yourself with your own health care. And
Yeah.
it takes a day to learn the
Mm-hmm.
self-care routine, because a lot of it is understanding what we're doing. But
Mm-hmm.
once you've learned it, it only takes 3 minutes a day to do.
Yeah.
And it balances the organs, and because the organs are associated with the meridians and
Mm.
also the emotions, you're really giving yourself a tune-up, a daily tune-up for 3 minutes. So it's an incredible class. I'm going to be running one. I can't remember the exact dates. I think it's March, April time. So if anyone's interested in any of that, either individual sessions or one of my groups, then please do reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.
Give us your site, also spell it out for the people that are just listening.
Okay, so my site is Replenish Zing. So it's like replenishing with a Z in it. Replenish Zing.
And so that's replenishing.com. You've also got Facebook, Sarah Chave, which is Sarah with an H dot CHAVE dot 7. You're also on Telegram. Sarah
Uh,
Chave, the time is now. And of course, your New Earth podcast as well. So, people can sign up for all sorts of things. Does the New Earth have a Facebook?
the New West podcast is the YouTube channel.
Right.
So if you're able to put the link to that under
Yeah,
the
it's
under
there.
the video, that would be amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
then anyone can decide, can subscribe to that.
Right. So the thing is that back to our health is our choice, which is understanding it's our well-being, as it's not just a question of me aches and pains or this or that, the headache or the tummy ache. It's about the keeping the equilibrium and the balance within the body and the chi and the energy running so that optimizes your body, mind, heart, and soul and spirit. And, acupressure, um, muscle testing, I'm definitely familiar with. And I used to have a brilliant acupuncturist out of China. She'd at the time been doing it 36 years, and she'd stick the needle in and you go, ouch, go good. That meant she hit the right core. And it was just amazing the things that she did for the body. But there's so much we can do with, kind of the acupressure, just certain meridians, the certain points that you press, and just how it kind of rebalances us. Just that whole thing is about balance, isn't it? Keeping our body in flow, keeping our mind and our heart and our soul and our spirits in flow, because when it's in flow, it's in know. And so we want that knowingness to flow through your body, and it will when that energy is there. Plus, it becomes energy that rises up, then it meets other energies, and then kind of creates that symphony that we're looking at, that village effect. So we owe it not only to ourselves for our own well-beingness, we owe it for our family, for our own communities, but we are the problem in the world. All the stuff that's going on is human made, but we're also the solution in the world. And that is rising up that consciousness into a higher energy of love and community. And then we actually will see all the things that have been the problem resolve themselves. But it's up to each and every one of us.
Yeah, I would really encourage people, if they haven't heard of the People's Health Alliance, to look it up. Um, Maybe I'll send you the link to
Please
the
do.
website.
Yeah.
But you can look up to see under Hub Life, which is on the main website. You can look to see if there's any hubs in your area,
Mm,
and get connected, because that might be a really beautiful stepping stone for people if they're
yeah.
looking for, the first steps. Because there's all kinds of resources available. Part of the idea of the People's Health Alliance is education. So
Mm,
they do all kinds of things like Wellbeing Wednesday, where
mm,
they have, meditations in the morning. They're currently doing a Feast of the Soul 40-day thing in association with someone else, that they're doing this spiritual 40-day spiritual meditation and various things. So there's basically a lot to connect with. So do look up the People's Health Alliance, because it's an incredible grassroots movement, like you talked about,
mm.
the grassroots,
Yeah.
which is just so exciting. It's so exciting to be involved in a grassroots movement.
Yeah. If you look at the media and any of the TV shows and things like this, anything like this, they go woo woo on and kind of villainize it. And that's because it's against their agenda. You know, um, consumerism is kind of one of the things that's killed us as a planet. It's raped and pillaged our planet. It cannot keep up with the resources. It's made us feel that more is more. I need more, and instead of less is more. And makes us buy things that we don't need to buy. And yes, everybody needs a job. We need to generate, but there's so many other ways that we can generate an income, a lifestyle, where we're keeping the balance. We're keeping the balance with the planet, with ourselves, with each other. And a lot of it is honoring ourselves, honoring this beautiful planet that we're on. It gives us everything we need. And I think if we can step into that honoring of yourself and everybody else around us, be there as support for one another, we really will bring about that peace that we are looking for. We're the love,
It's
we're the peace.
interesting. It's interesting, what you're talking about with abundance, because I've done a lot of work with the Taoist master, Master Mantak Chia, and he always talks about, how people look to the heavens for abundance. They ask, but
God, yeah.
actually, the place to find abundance is Mother Earth.
Yes.
That's where we look for abundance is Mother Earth, and to really feel that abundance of all that we're offered from Mother Earth, it's quite incredible.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing, we've kind of lost connection with that and then there's not the honoring,
Yeah.
if we've lost that connection. So I feel that part of the transition that we're going through is rebuilding that connection with Mother Earth, and also within ourselves, the divine masculine and feminine, because
Yes, the
they've
balance.
also gone out of
Yeah.
balance. And in my group, which will be in a week or two's time, Creating New Earth, we're going to be working with the divine feminine, looking at all the aspects of the feminine that have been wounded this month. And then the following month, we'll be working with the wounded masculine. We actually need both. We need both the masculine and the feminine. But we need to be in right relationship with both aspects.
The yin and the yang. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, the bottom line of everything is when we bring about balance in respect, in love, and honor what we have, honor each other, we're bringing about that peace that we're looking for. But we've got to be the solution in our own lives, in our community, and understand that all that is wrong out there can be put right if we're willing to take the action. And that action is really self-value, value of planet, value of each other, and truly understanding the gifts that we have been given in ourselves, in this beautiful planet that has never left us wanting. She is crying right now. She's literally cracking up because of the way we're treating her. And if we can go back to respect of the planet, of each other, and each other's contribution, then I think we'll find that equilibrium that we so desperately need.
I agree. And it's a journey, it's a journey because we've got to, because of the conditioning that we've been brought up with, it's a journey to let go, to move from competition to collaboration, for example. It's a journey, that some of us find aspects of it easier than others, but all of us will have aspects that we find, harder to let go of. I remember when we got guided to leave the UK a while ago, I kind of heard Spirit say to me, "Be prepared to let go of everything."
Yeah.
And I went through a phase of lots and lots of letting go. It's a little bit of a grief process, actually. Letting go of our old life. But I think a lot of that is kind of what we're going through as a collective is a bit of a grief process.
Yeah.
Because we're having to all let go of expectations so that we can move into something new.
Letting go of
So we have to
comforts
be
too,
prepared
right?
to let go,
Yeah.
on all sorts of levels. And that could be, physically, in our case, we had to let go of our home, our old life, so much of what we knew, we've had to let go of to embrace this new, which is incredible. It's an incredible journey, but there's a lot of grief and letting go of, it's part of the journey as well.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that in the last few years, and kind of honed into what really is important. And you know what I do need for my own comfort, which will allow me to do what I have to do, you know, what I am here to do. And that's really the only comfort that you need. That things that fortify you to do what you're here to do. Everything else is just like extra, and do you need it? Right? So, you know, getting back to the core of what really is important. Bottom line, love. If we can all find our way to love, inner love, love of life, love of planet, love of each other, then we will all be a part of that equation that will be healing in the world. So that's what it's
Well,
about,
that's the
folks.
great harmonizer, isn't
Mm.
it? The love, the coming from the heart. You know, that's
Mhm.
the journey we're all sort of hoping to find our way back to the heart,
Yes.
and you know, coming from the heart. So it's very much the journey, and I guess the grief, you know, is a journey through that in a way.
Yes.
It kind of it cracks it open, doesn't it? The grief.
Kind of the rite of passage. You know, you can't embrace the new while you're still hauling the old. You take with you that you know that can be beneficial to the new, to the world that you're building. If it's not beneficial to it, then it is just dead luggage and you have to let it go. And that very often can be family members and people, because not everybody's going to journey with you at the same level. And if you connect again down the road, when you know different vibrations start to meet, great. And if not, wish them well, wish them love. But this is your journey, and you need to take it.
I think that's been the very difficult thing, you know, for so many families, you know, that family members have got different visions around
Mm,
what's going on at the moment. And I think it's created a lot of grief and division within families. And I think it is sadly one of the painful things that we're all having to go through, you
yeah.
know, is that process. But then at the same time, finding that family of frequency, finding
Mm,
those that are resonant, so that we can actually, you know, not feel alone with, you know, if the people in the village are not kind of on the same page, you
yeah.
can kind of connect with your tribe sort of thing.
Right. Family isn't always blood. And that doesn't mean that you have to abandon them, but sometimes it does mean you have to move away in order to, you know, to live in your own frequency. And you know, you can love them, you can white light them, you can communicate with them, but if they're not ready to take that journey, then you know, each and every one of us is has to own our own journey and not demand somebody else take it with us or do it our way, right? We've got to navigate our way, but along with the wisdom and the knowledge of others who have done it, because that just paves the path for us.
I think that's been the hard thing, you know, because you love your family, because you
Mm,
care about your family, you know, you want to bring them with you, and it's not always
no,
possible. And that's, you know, that's often kind of a little bit heartbreaking, you know, and certainly that's been, you know, part of my journey is letting go of the fact that it's not for me to fix, or you know,
yeah,
it's actually
yes,
disrespectful to not let them do it the way they wish to do it, even though it's kind of not how I would want it, sort of
right,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know that is one of the hard things, but at the same time, you know, once you've reached that certain journey vibration where you're at, they see you in a different light. And, you know, that could be the invitation for them to rise up themselves, or just even the invitation to see you in a different way and communicate with you in a different way. And but we have to take this journey. We need to do it for ourselves. And only when we are stepped into our own light and our own good vibrations can we be that light and good vibrations for others. So it is imperative that we all do take it, because this earth needs us to. The sustainability of this earth needs us to. The equilibrium of the harmony of this earth needs us to. And we need to for our own heart and soul. Because if we don't, then we're going to be the ones that will suffer from it. We are
That's the
suffering
thing, and
from it.
ultimately it goes back to that disempowered thing. You know, if we're giving up our way to a doctor, like we talked about earlier, if we're living our lives to please someone else, you know,
Yeah,
to stay in the framework that they feel comfortable with, rather than stepping into what we know is right. But
yeah,
you know, it's we're not in our power then
right.
either. So it's really that you know, honoring our individual path.
Yeah,
And sadly, even if that means that we have to kind of carve away from friends, you know, there's lots of goodbyes in this journey the last 2 years, sadly. It's very much part of the process. It's a time of endings and beginnings.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you can't have one without the other.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Yeah. So
it's a beautiful journey when one's willing to take it. And you're still kind of young in your journey, but look at all the things that have transpired. The ambassadorship, the creating of the podcast, the creating of the New Earth platform, all of this type of thing is just, you're in the right area to open the right doors. And that's the thing, when things start going right, even beyond what you thought you wanted or you thought was going to happen, and you allow and let things happen, then it goes like, this is better than I could have thought up, right? And that's when we get out of our own way, so to speak.
yeah, well, it's a surrendering process,
Yeah.
and certainly when I'm one of the things that I learned with the work that I do is, it's about as much as possible, and we've all got our own filters. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I entirely achieve this, but to much as much as possible, get out of the way so that we can, we can let what's coming through to really be there to allow that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a surrendering. So it's not about what I think
Yeah.
that I should do for the client. It's about allowing what needs to present and to arise and
Yeah.
unravel. So in a way, it's a similar process. It's that kind of standing out the way and letting that divine flow to guide.
Mm.
And it's like you say. I mean, it's not about money; it's about purpose. So there's some things, some sort of humanitarian things that don't feel in alignment.
Yeah.
It's having the boundaries.
Yes.
We can't say yes to everything.
No.
It's
No.
it's about having the clear boundaries. Yes, this is for me. No, that's not for me.
Right. And you know that because you feel it. It's take the head out of the equation. How does you feel? Oh, my gut says no. Do I need to justify,
Absolutely.
verify, or validate that? No. My gut says no. And so therefore, trust it because it knows.
And if we're on our purpose, if we're in our purpose, if we're in our, what it ultimately is, it's about following our bliss. It's
Mm.
like there's such an enjoyment for what we're being sort of directed to do and guided to do, that that's kind of a bliss state. Like I love my working with clients. I love the groups that I do. I'm loving the podcast, and
Hmm.
now the work that I'm doing with PHA. I really genuinely really enjoy it. So that's how we know. It's
Yes.
like following the bliss.
Yes,
So
yes. Despite how you feel in the morning, you know you're going to something that's going to lift you up because that's, then you're in the right track. And it's a really good feeling. And anything else that transpires because of it or directions that come out of it, they're all meant to. And although the initial is, oh, do I want to? Don't I want to? This means doing this means doing that. And it's that once you've got over kind of the initial human shock of it and you trust the heart and soul of it, then you go, yeah, it's okay. I can do this. I'll follow. You lead the
we're
way.
in the flow.
Yeah, we're in the
Yeah.
flow. Right. And then you start finding things happen and they manifest and they all come to fruition. So yeah, that's what it's about. So folks, it is replenish zing, ZING.com. Her podcasts, New Earth podcasts on YouTube. Please tune in and listen to them. Please look at her site. The answers are all there. It's just a question, are we willing to apply? The journey is for you to take. And, I say, come on in. The waters are great. Yes, you may go through some transition, but what it is getting rid of what does not serve you anymore. And it's setting you up to be open, a beautiful open vessel to receive all this wonderful divine energy that's going to serve you on the journey that you're meant to take. So thank you so much for sharing with us today, Sarah.
Oh, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Sarah. I've really enjoyed talking with you today.
Right back at you, love, and good luck with all the podcasts and everything else. I know you're going to really get hooked with it because there's so many great people out there, and that in
That's the
itself
dream.
is a community, right?
It's
Uh,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Really,
Enjoy.
really fabulous. Yeah.
Until next time, folks, remember this journey, your health, your well-beingness is all up to you, and that Don't be afraid. Look at fear and go, okay, right, show me what I need to be afraid of, and let me do it anyway. So it's a wonderful journey when you're willing to take it. And please do take it, because the world needs you and you need you. So until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or self-discovery-media/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.